Well, hi everyone, it's Marcus and welcome to more Zooming in the Jungle Room. We've kicked off 2025. This is probably about my third one for the year so far, and I'm really pumped because I've never spoken to this guy before. We both live in Adelaide. I've never even met him. I don't even know how, but please everyone, welcome Shaun Holton. Shaun, how are you?
I'm
Woo!
very well, thank you. I've been watching you from a distance for a long time. You're everywhere,
Oh,
everywhere.
well, you know what? My hair enters the room half an hour before I do, so it was probably just Um, Shaun, you must feel the pressure at the moment because what are we? We're Wednesday, only in a few days' time, 4 days' time, 3 days' time. You have got a Jeff Buckley show. We're going to talk all about that very shortly. But you must be feeling the pressure right now, all that excitement, that buzz. Um, but let's go back to the early days before we start. Well, not so much the early days. But let's go back a good few years. 2021. You were on The Voice. And obviously became a household name, which really has put you into a whole nother league now, which is great. How was your time on The Voice?
It was, and I had before being on The Voice a small brush with reality TV, even further back in 2011 with a little stint on X Factor that got me absolutely nowhere. It was a blip and you miss it. I was like part of a montage that people were probably popping out to like get a tea or a coffee at that point in time. And I was much younger and I just, I didn't have the ability to be interesting, I suppose. So that was like the cliched experience you hear about reality TV. You know, it's contrived and it's fake and they don't care and whatever. And so I was apprehensive about doing the voice, and I was kind of uh dragged into doing it kicking and screaming by my partner who was like just do it, you know. And someone from the voice casting agency sent me an email, and I was like, okay, well, let's just do it. And it was actually one of the most fun, positive experiences ever. The exact opposite of everything that the X Factor experience was.
That's so good to hear. And of course, and you went practically right through to almost the end, which so congratulations on that. Obviously, incredible. But also on that season that you were on, which I think was season 10, correct me if I'm wrong. But there was also Sean Miley Moore, who went on to do massive things in musical theatre, let alone his solo career as well. Most recently, he was in Adelaide for Miss Saigon, which was great. And I think he's coming
Ah,
back to Adelaide this year and doing Hedwig, which would be great, which is
ah,
just an Adelaide performance. But also
uh,
another dear friend of mine, Rebecca O'Connor, who went on to do, Tina Turner, Simply the Best, all around the world. So yeah, you were incredibly blessed to be surrounded by some good souls. Let me turn off my phone. So moving on from that though, what has happened for you, obviously, since walking out of that 2021 to 2025 now? What has your career been like?
wow. So I mean, it's a lot, but between then and now, I had a brush with homelessness. So I was cast out. My family, I've got three children and three dogs and a wife, and we found ourselves in the midst of the pandemic housing rental crisis, and our home got pulled out from underneath us, and it was very difficult to find another one. So there was a stint there where, I didn't have to, but I cut the hair off and I went and got a call center job, and I, just put my head down for a while, and I got a home loan, and we're in a house now that's our, as far as we can tell, our forever home for the time being. And then I was not really thinking that I was going to be doing music or performance or art again. Not necessarily because I had a sour taste in my mouth, but I was like, the voice was such a peak, And I just thought like maybe I've had my fun, maybe this is it. And I got invited to audition for a band called Southern Empire. And for people that are into the um, progressive rock metal scene, they're from here in Adelaide, Australia, but they're this huge success in Europe and the UK and the US. And again, I was like, I don't think so. And my wife, who just hadn't had enough punishment, obviously was like, nah, I really think you should do this.
That's go on.
And that just kind of blew the door open. And yeah, and I've just kind of, that was, I think, the end of 2022. And then, yeah, things just started happening from there. I joined, I do a bunch of sessions on a YouTube channel now called Sing It Live. They're kind of like the main competitor of Adelaide's beloved Hindley Street Country Club.
Yeah.
There's a documentary that you will see one day. That is an incredible story. It's not my story to tell,
Yeah.
but it's an incredible story. Yeah, I'll wait for the documentary. I won't ruin anything. I'm sure there will be one at some point. And yeah, and it's just kind of snowballed from there. And then in the last couple of years was when I really went, you know what? It's great to get these invitations to do stuff, but I think it's time that I have some ideas. It's time I put my producer hat on. It's time I start thinking about, okay, these are the things that I've been lucky enough to be invited to be in. What are the things that I would actually like to create? What would I like to invite people to come and be a part of? And so that's kind of where we are now.
Wow. Hey, you know what? I mean, let's not gloss over it. You have led a very colorful life. Obviously, like you said, touching on that, brush with homelessness for a period. Do you find that you can take those kind of experiences and put that into your art form now?
I think so. Do you know what? I think what's changed musically since then is before before that little hardship, which was, you know, fortunately brief and well supported, and I'm surrounded by a lot of, lovely people that love me, and so that was super helpful. And I had a lot of people that bent over backwards and sacrificed to help us. People immediately came to our aid. And that's not the case for so many people. And ironically, the job that I got to get myself out of this situation was working for Services Australia. So I was taking calls on a daily basis of people that were in a similar, but in many cases, far worse situation than I was. So that was an interesting thing to contrast. And so I think the main difference is before all of this happened, musically, I'm predominantly a singer. I would say that's the thing that I do the best, but I'm a bit of an all-rounder and I get away with playing instruments when people ask me to. I think people think that I'm capable of more than I do. And so they say, "Can you do this?" And I go, "Yep." And in the back of my head, I'm like, "Not a chance." And I can rise to the occasion or crash and burn. And I haven't crashed and burned too harshly just yet. But I used to really listen to music and melody. I would never really paid attention to lyrics. And I think on the other side of everything that I've been through now, the lyrics of songs hit me so much harder,
Yeah,
especially when people are telling the truth.
yeah, yeah. Telling an authentic story for sure. That
Mm,
beautifully
mm.
inspiring. Hey, so this is such a cliche question, but let's go with it. But was music your first love?
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
There was never anything else.
yeah, good. Okay, so let's go back to when you were growing up then. Who were you listening to that really led your path into the music industry?
So my first memory of loving a piece of music was a cassette tape. It had Pressure Down by John Farnham on it. My mum has been a lifelong fan of John Farnham way back from the Johnny days. She broke into his dressing room at one point, stole a kiss. He might be my father. I don't know. Um,
I love.
But yeah, it was like John Farnham and Roxette and I've got two older siblings from a previous marriage of my mum, so they're 6 and 10 years older than me. So they were listening to like Boys to Men and New Kids on the Block and Salt and Pepper. And you know, my mum liked Pink Floyd and Bowie and Farnham and like Van Halen, and we just had, if it was good, it didn't matter what it was, but if it was good, it was on at our place.
Yeah. Look, you're dropping all the good names. It's like tick, tick, tick for me. Hey, so what was your first concert that you ever went to? Do you remember?
Ah, I reckon it probably because my dad is a rabid motorsport fan, so it would have been some sort of after show for the Grand Prix or something like that, and it probably would have been Farnham, or someone in that vein. I would say. I think, yeah, I was the little baby, newborn baby, falling asleep at a house party next to the speakers.
Me too. I might have been on the other side of the speaker at one of those parties. Hey, before we get up to, the big event, let's talk about Adelaide Fringe for a minute, because I know for a fact that you're in a couple of, you got one of your own show, and then also
Yep.
you're actually doing a special guest appearance in another massive show that's been around for about 4 years now. Let's talk about the special guest show. It is, of course, we are talking about 27 Club, which appears in Gluttony in the Fantail. Look at me knowing all this stuff. And it runs the entire duration of the Adelaide Fringe, with everyone from Dusty Lee Stevenson to Sarah McLeod and Jebediah. It's got everyone. It's so cool. So what are you doing in that?
So I have the privilege of filling in for Mr. Bob Evans from Jebediah. He is going to be ducking out for the first three performances. So I believe that's the 21st, 22nd, 23rd
Yep.
of February. And yeah, I'm going to be your grunge god for a couple of nights, for a few nights.
I love it. I mean, and also Jebediah, Kevin Mitchell, of course, and of course Adelaide's own. She was the cabaret star of Adelaide. Now she's kind of Mondo Psycho, I think it's called, Mondo Pseudo,
Mm.
something like that. Of course, Carla Lippis. What a voice on that woman! Wow. So yeah, and
Mm.
a very
Mm.
illustrious show, that one. Obviously celebrating the music of all the artists that died when they were 27, from Winehouse to Cobain,
Yep.
Hendrix, etc.
Yep.
Hey, but let's move on to your solo show for the Adelaide Fringe. It is, of course, a John Farnham show appearing at the Bar. Tell us about that.
So that was speaking back to my mum's record collection. That all started for my mum's birthday. So for my mum's birthday, I thought I would put on the ultimate John Farnham tribute experience. And this was right before I hadn't been paying attention to the tabloids. This was right before I found out that Farnham was diagnosed with mouth cancer. And so I put this idea out. I'd contacted some musicians. I was lucky enough to score some of the best players we have, not just in Adelaide, probably in the country, maybe the world. And as one of them, I believe, I haven't actually properly asked him. I believe has either like worked with or worked in the same room adjuxed to Farnham once upon a time. So we've got some actual Farnham like boots on the ground, which is really
Wow.
nice.
Wow.
And it was the ultimate gift, and it just went so well that there was, and to be fair to the musicians that put so much work into it, it was just wouldn't have been right if we didn't do it again. And so then we were invited to Fringe, from our friends over at Bar, and that went really well last year, and they've asked for us to come back, and back we're coming.
Awesome. I'm going to get to that one because I'm a massive fan. My favorite John Farnham song would be, as far as a hit song goes, would be Burn for You. What would yours be?
I think it would have to be Burn for You as
But
well.
again,
Yeah.
lyrically, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, I can relate. I can relate to that one. When my second born was born, I went and did a 6 month stint overseas
Yeah.
and was a Skype dad.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's you only do that once if you have to.
Hey, so let's bring it back now to this weekend. This Saturday night, you are appearing at the famed The Gov. I mean, what a live venue, right? It's incredible. I love it there. I love seeing my shows there. I've never seen you there yet, though. That's going to change this Saturday because what you've got is Lilac Wine, an evening with Jeff Buckley. Obviously, Jeff Buckley had an incredible album before he passed away. It was just an incredibly moving album, obviously with the much loved track Hallelujah. What brought on this show?
Um, it was actually so when you're playing anywhere, particularly if you go to see a gig at the Gov and you're waiting for the opening band or the headline act to come on, the sound guy is going to put on some music and there's going to be a Soundgarden song that comes on and there's going to be "Everybody Here Wants You" is going to come on, right? And so I'm setting up this Sing It Live show at the Arca Bar with Adelaide's royalty producer, Mr. Darren Mullen, one of the original founders of the Hindley Street Country Club. Darren's been around forever, even though you would be surprised to know so, because he's such a youthful, handsome looking older fella who looks like a handsome younger fella. And we're setting up the show for this Sing It Live thing. And of course, that Jeff Buckley song pops on. And he just says to me, if you were going to do another tribute show, it should be this one. And that was all I really needed to hear. I just thought, actually, you know what? I think you're absolutely correct. And I just ran with it.
And you've got a killer band. Stuart James Day, Shannon Brinsley, Chris Lau, Luke Whelan, and Kat Louise. That again, I love saying the word illustrious, but I'm going to say that again, an illustrious
Mhm.
band. Proud much?
Oh yeah, we've also got Tom Kneebone of the Audreys. He's
Oh,
currently a guitarist in the Audreys, and
yeah.
so he's basically he is the left and right hand of Jeff Buckley for me. I probably could have sat down and done the guitar homework to pull off an authentic. There's someone singing and playing the Jeff stuff. But I have a friend, her name's Jessica Lux, and Tom also plays with her. And I went to her single launch last year at the Jade. And I saw this guy playing Tom, and he's just got the most hauntingly beautiful butterscotch Fender Telecaster cowboy twangy vibe thing going on. And so when I thought about putting this show together, he was the went straight to I was like, I'm not gonna bother learning to play this stuff. It's actually gonna be the biggest treat for me to sit there, wail like a banshee next to like the like killer cowboy slinging Telecaster dude. So it's a guilty pleasure for me really to just sit next to this guy and listen to him do his thing.
Right.
And he does an incredible Buckley. Really, really good.
Speaking of Jessica Lux, she's going to be opening for you as well. Incredible.
That's right.
It
Yep.
sounds like a great
Yep.
night. So,
So she's a beautiful songwriter.
what can we expect from the night?
Um, you can expect a really authentic the guys, everybody that's involved in this project has a deep connection to Buckley and his music. They really get it. And it's important music to them. And they have worked so much harder than I have just putting in all of the finer, nuanced little details. even to the point where, and it's not a criticism at all, if you go diving through YouTube and look at Buckley performances, you will never find a performance of Buckley doing it like it was on the record. The guy never sang anything the same way twice, ever. And in fact, I would say that what you're hearing on those albums is a selection that either he or a producer put together, and I guarantee no two takes were the same. Whereas we as listeners have become deeply intimate with what ended up being the final product.
Yeah.
And so we're really have gone to great pains to replicate in a live way, the experience that people had listening to those records.
Freaking magic. I cannot wait to experience it myself. Shaun Holton, what an absolute delight. Of course, Lilac Wine, An Evening with Jeff Buckley is on at the Gov this Saturday, the 11th of January. Doors open at 11 o'clock. Open at 7:30, I think it is.
That's
And
right.
get along, get your tickets for that. I think there are still a few tickets available, so get along, everyone. And then don't miss Shaun in 27 Club during the Adelaide Fringe. And of course, his solo show, John Farnham show at the Arca Bar. What was the date for the John Farnham show again?
The Fonzie show is the 8th of March.
So get along, everyone. Shaun, what an absolute delight to catch up with you. Our first conversation. I look forward to many more interviews with you because you're such a delight and such an inspiration to chat with. So thank you. You have the most amazing day.
Thank you. My pleasure. It's been awesome to meet you, mate.
I'll see you Saturday night.